Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Amit, and on this channel we talk about stocks, investing, and finance, and I have $27,000 invested into Palantir, so we're making another video with some due diligence on Palantir. Okay, today we're going to be talking about BlackSky, which is one of the SPACs that Palantir invested in. We're going a little bit deeper into why Palantir invested into them, what does BlackSky do, and ultimately the strategic partnership that they have created within their company. So this is part of the series. I think it's part of a playlist I've created on YouTube where I basically do analyses of all the SPACs that Palantir is invested in. So we've talked about Lilium, we've talked about Wejo, and today we're talking about BlackSky. Now, BlackSky is a really interesting company because they do stuff that's really, really unique, and I want to talk about how the stuff that they do ultimately integrates with Foundry and Palantir's data software, but also the network effects that it creates in aggregate of the data that Palantir is able to get because of the integration with BlackSky for all of its other clients. So first of all, let's talk about what BlackSky is. It is a leading technology platform providing real-time geospatial intelligence and global monitoring. What does that mean? That means that they have satellites in the sky and they're monitoring different things that are happening throughout the entire world. They're taking tons of images per second. You're talking about millions of images per second. And they're taking all of those images and they're trying to find different holes and things that make sense, that can be used, that can be optimized. And then they're creating stories from that data to then actually do things to the clients that they sell that data towards. And that's really, really important when it comes to ultimately what BlackSky does. So this is a quote from the press release. This collaboration further enables BlackSky to put the power of real-time intelligence in the hands of users by allowing Palantir customers to directly task our satellites or reduce decision-making timelines and increase the delivery of on-demand insights. So let's take an example of what this looks like. Let's say there's a hurricane in South Africa. And that hurricane in South Africa has wrecked a ton of places, and people need help, people need supply, people need water, people need foods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got companies that are there to provide that help to places that have dealt with a disaster, but they need to know what they have to do, right? They need data ultimately on understanding how to best provide that data in a meaningful way. So Palantir would partner with BlackSky. BlackSky would have the image satellite data stuff that I talked about in the beginning of the thing that happened in South Africa in this hypothetical example, this hurricane that happened. They would be able to take all those images, take all that data, and then give it to the partners that you would use BlackSky and the Palantir clients that would potentially be using this type of data in order to figure out how to best give disaster relief, for example, to the places that are affected by this hurricane. So you would think the South African government in America would be something like FEMA, right, that operates with disaster reliefs. These are the organizations and the clients that would really be able to use that data in order to make sense of how this operates. So BlackSky entered into a multi-year software subscription agreement with Palantir to access Palantir Foundry, which is an enterprise platform, obviously by Palantir, along with Palantir making an investment within BlackSky. BlackSky is going to offer a combined solution that integrates Spectra AI, which is their proprietary software, with Palantir Foundry to expand the delivery of high-resolution imagery. Again, these are the satellites across the world that are taking these images, and deep analytics to customers worldwide. The capabilities of the combined solution were successfully demonstrated in a series of exercises with experienced geospatial intelligence customers earlier this year, proving that the partnership makes sense. It works. There's case studies, and there's ultimately integration that can happen in the future for it to work long term. Now, Shyam Sankar, our chief OOO, or our COOO, I always get that wrong when I'm saying that, our chief operational officer of Palantir, said that BlackSky is a strong partner to Palantir and reinforces our shared goals around compressing decision chains for operational users at the edge. Through the licensing agreement, customers will gain tailored insights from increasingly sophisticated orbital sensors and AI. This is going to the Internet of Things. So these are sensors that are on physical hardware devices across the world that are embedded within artificial intelligence and sending data back to a centralized hub that is then making sense of that data, i.e. Palantir. Integrated into their decision-making operating system, this partnership directly connects space sensors to action, accelerating operations across domains from space to mud. This is really important, right? So if you think about devices across the world that are integrated with these types of sensors and AI, and then you are combining those devices on the ground with spatial image detecting across the entire world, that's a ton of data that's being analyzed and integrated within other companies or within BlackSky itself that it can give to other companies that are going to have use cases of that data at scale, right? And ultimately, that's sort of the reason I believe they partnered with BlackSky from a subscription perspective in terms of giving them access to Palantir Foundry, but also invested in them. The reason the investment makes sense to me is because BlackSky as a company is providing geospatial intelligence, which is a very difficult thing to provide, right? You think about something like Google Earth, right? Where Google has the entire Earth in the palm of your hands that you can Google and you can like move around the entire world. They took millions and millions, probably billions of images to make Google Earth make sense, right? It's a really amazing thing. And they created it about 10, 15 years ago. So it's been around for a while. Think of Google Earth on steroids when you think of BlackSky. BlackSky is a company that's finding the most minute things. Like, for example, in counterintelligence for terrorism, or counterterrorism intelligence, you would imagine like if they're able to find people that are planning a terrorist attack because they can have millions of sets of data because of Palantir that they're able to integrate within the geospatial imaging detection software and come together by saying, okay, in this place, these terrorists are coming together. We have all these different patterns that match for why this is happening. Here's what we should do. Here's the information we should give to the government so they can stop this or they can at least be on alert for these types of things. You've got something really big, right? You've got something in which you can literally save people's lives and which profitably you can sell data in a meaningful way to organizations that are going to be able to use this. Another use case I can think of is just like space and asteroids, right? Now, this is really NASA's job, and SpaceX is helping them out with that. But if there's a world in which you can detect things that are going out of outer space and things that are happening that we don't know about in the cosmos, and we can detect those things years and decades before they happen, this is where the dinosaurs would be happy if they had some Palantir Foundry up in there back in the BC era, however long ago, 13 billion years ago that was, because now they're able to know, oh, these things are happening, so maybe we can make sense of these things via the data and actually do something so that these things don't hurt us long term. Now, the Palantir CEO, the BlackSky CEO said this collaboration further enables BlackSky to put the power of real-time intelligence, I already said this, into the hands of the users by allowing Palantir customers to directly understand our satellites. Now, this is the last thing I want to talk about. Palantir customers also need this data because they're companies that operate in terms of analyzing and synthesizing a ton of data. So think about a company like Airbus that I did a video on with Palantir. If Airbus had access to all this geospatial intelligence data that was integrated within the Palantir Foundry software, Airbus could potentially make better decisions for what they need to do in creating different air fleets because they have all this imaging data from satellites that they don't have access to on their own, but because it's integrated into Foundry and they have access into Foundry, that's something that all of their clients will be able to get access to. So this is really a win-win scenario because now you're talking about BlackSky offering its data to Palantir because Palantir is offering its services in terms of its Foundry software to BlackSky. This is going back to the network effects I talked about above. The platform itself is getting more rich in data because now the platform has all this different data coming to it from different sources, BlackSky being one of the big sources for geospatial intelligence, which means the customers of Palantir have access to that data that is highly confidential and highly useful because they have access to Palantir Foundry. Foundries, it's like you have access to YouTube, you have access to all of the world's videos because you have access to YouTube. You secure a contract with Palantir Foundry, you have access to a lot of data that exists in a lot of different places, obviously in a very sophisticated, confidential way that you're able to now integrate to make your business decision-making more effective and more optimized, which is why they said that BlackSky will put the power of real-time intelligence in the hand of the user by allowing Palantir customers to directly task our satellites. So these are governmental agencies, these are the CIA, NIH, right? These are really big institutions and organizations and commercial partners like Airbus that could potentially really use this data and have this data become effective for them at scale. So yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it's a good deal. I don't have any BlackSky stock, potentially will buy. I'm thinking of like, should I buy companies that Palantir is invested in? Like, if I believe so much in Palantir, do I believe in their SPAC investments? Obviously, the only problem is, right, these investments, they may not go perfectly when you're talking about brand new companies. Palantir is a company that's brand new to the stock market, but it's been around for 20 years. So I'd rather invest in them, which I would get a return on these SPACs because they have equity stakes in these SPACs versus investing directly in the SPACs. But, that's also because I haven't done the most due diligence on something like a BlackSky. I know it at a base level, so I'm not the most comfortable investing in it right now. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Palantir and BlackSky's partnership. Let me know what other videos you guys would like to see. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on all the different SPACs Palantir invested in, so you guys can know if you should invest in those companies, or you can at least have more information on if you should invest in those companies. This is not financial advice, but rather this should hopefully frame your investment thesis on these companies by just looking up more information to think why these companies are invested with Palantir, why they're partnered with Palantir, and why Palantir ultimately put, real money, you're talking about millions and millions of dollars, into these companies in order to hopefully make them successful and gave them access to the Foundry platform. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know your guys' comments. My name is Amit. This is the Daily Business Show. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next one.